Hey Riley, what game are we going to play today? Mario's Time Machine on the Super Nintendo? That's a horrible choice, but let's do it. I remember renting Mario's Time Machine as a kid, and when getting home and giving it a try, having absolutely zero idea how to play it. It was a worthless rental, and as a kid in the 80s and 90s, that's like a kick to the nuts. I couldn't even complete it, let alone get to the first stage in the game. I was completely lost on the first screen, which is Bowser's Museum, and was confused as to what to do at all. So, was it really that bad, or was I just too young to understand how to play a game designed to educate young people on history? We'll get into gameplay in my review soon, but first let's go over some meaningless details about the game itself, because if there's one thing Mario's Time Machine taught me, it's that learning is fun. Pulling straight from Wikipedia, Mario's Time Machine is an educational video game originally released for the MS-DOS and Super Nintendo, then for the NES. I'm playing the Super Nintendo version in this review. The Software Toolworks developed and published both the MS-DOS and Super Nintendo versions in late 1993, and the NES version was developed by Radical Entertainment and published by the Software Toolworks in 1994. There was also a version for Windows titled Mario's Time Machine Deluxe, and it was released in 1996. The premise for the game is relatively complicated. Bowser goes through time and steals a bunch of shit artifacts from a bunch of famous assholes throughout history, and in order to do this, he built a time machine called the Timulator because he lacks originality. And details are scant on how Bowser was able to conjure up a machine this technologically advanced. We just have to accept that he's done it, and he's wreaked havoc with it. There's no real hint as to what his plans are with the artifacts, nor do we ever find out why he doesn't just go back in time and strangle baby Mario to death whilst sleeping in his crib before carrying out any of these nefarious plans, but we do know that Mario wants to infiltrate Bowser's castle and enter the museum where Bowser is keeping all these treasures so that he can return them to their proper owners before history gets changed. I would assume that history would instantly be changed the second Bowser travels through time and interacts with basically anything, being a large turtle monster, but maybe there's more to it that I'm just not understanding, as we'll later see this game is full of that kind of nasty garbage. The game glosses right over all the boring details of how Mario infiltrated Bowser's castle, so we now start the game on the first floor of Bowser's Museum. So with the backstory all laid out and the game in full swing, let's go over the general controls and the flow of the game. A button is used as confirm. Y button allows Mario to speed up during the surfboard sections. More on that later. The X button is used for almost everything, like talking to people, entering rooms, picking up artifacts, and selecting text when completing your homework on each level. Like the surfing sections, I'll be going over the homework a little bit later. The R button pulls up your homework that you need to complete for every artifact, and the L button pulls up the Timulator time machine so you can select where and when you want to go. The B button, as far as I can tell, serves no other purpose than to make Mario jump, a function which is never required once in the entire game. I suppose the devs just threw caution and sense to the wind and figured that because this was Mario, he needs to be able to jump. The game just wouldn't be the same without it, I guess. Once you get accustomed to the ridiculous controls, which you probably never will, you can start your quest traveling through time and throwing a monkey wrench directly into Bowser's plans of being the hottest, wettest puss in town. You use the X button to select which artifact you would love to return to the proper owner from the 5 pillars on each of the 3 floors. It was right after this step that this game completely lost me as a kid. It even lost me as an adult on this playthrough. I needed to consult the only wiki guide I could find online in order to figure out what the game is wanting me to do. Just pulling up the Timulator, it looks like the options are endless. Just pick a bunch of random shit, and then for some reason, Mario starts surfboarding all over. I had no idea what the game wanted me to do here, so I just cruised around doing nothing, picking up mushrooms, hitting electric things, and then going into a whirlpool and being warped back to Bowser's Museum. It's a little jarring because I can't really understand what being a wave ninja has to do with time travel, but again, I'm obviously just missing something as I want to do while playing this game. After doing this multiple times, I finally consulted the guide again to find out exactly what the hell to do, so here's the completely reasonable and easy to understand rundown that I was supposed to figure out on my own as a kid in the 90s before the internet existed on a wide scale. It makes so much sense I don't know how I missed it. So you pull up your homework menu with the R button after picking up your artifact. Then you read the top line and that gives you all the information you need to enter into the timulator. Why this process couldn't just be automatic is beyond me, or even hinted at once to just nudge me into the right direction during gameplay, but okay, fuck this game. So for example, the first artifact I picked up was the apple, and according to my homework tab, I need to go to Cambridge circa 1687 AD. So I lower the homework menu with R, then I press L to bring up the timulator, then I tediously enter that information digit by digit and line by line into the timulator. Don't forget to check whether or not it's BC or AD, and bear in mind this game never explains this to you, so they must have just thought it was so self-explanatory that all the 10-year-olds playing it would get it, even though I'm almost 40 now and I still don't get it. So I very slowly plug in all of the information I need and then press A. Now I'm warped to the surfboard section. This section serves no purpose except to punish you and waste your time. You will figure this out later when you try to guess the answers to certain questions in each level. What you need to do here is surf around and collect 10 mushrooms, which you will need to travel through time, I guess, and you can only collect these mushrooms out in the ocean. Once you have 10 mushrooms, enter a whirlpool and you will be transferred to the time and place that you entered into your timulator. That is, assuming that you entered all of the information correctly. If you entered any information incorrectly, the only time you will know is after you surf your asshole off collecting mushrooms. The whirlpool will just warp you back to Bowser's Castle where you get to figure out your mistakes, then do it all again. That's a really cool feature. Also, make sure you avoid the electrical orbs while surfing as they'll take away all of your collected mushrooms. No explanation for this, they just do, and they are there to waste your time even further. It took me a few minutes, which felt like months, to even realize that this was the case as I surfed around like an idiot, embarrassing myself in front of all the hot chicks here that are obsessed with me because I'm a fancy boy. Alright, listen, once you finally make it to the first famous location and time in the game, congratulations. You've made it further than every single kid ever did when they rented this in the 90s, and you're about 1/15 the way through the game. Now this is where the homework page really comes into play, so get ready to blow your load because this is where the fun factor ramps way up past heaven. You'll notice that a lot of important information is missing throughout both pages of homework that you were given for that artifact. You need to explore the area and talk to as many people as you can until you have learned all of the information you need in order to fill in these blanks. I hope you brought a spare pair of underwear because it's definitely as fun as it sounds and it somehow gets more fun if you can even believe that. This game does not hold your hand or assist you in any way. Once someone mentions information you need to remember, there are no hints given as to its importance. And the game would never even dream of automatically filling this information in for you. So you need to keep going into your homework page after talking to each person, then entering in any pertinent information wherever applicable, and just like the timulator, it's a very tedious process. For each line you need to fill in, there's a drop-down box filled with tons of misleading answers for you to slowly scroll through in order to pick the correct answer. And the sound effect for every single time you scroll up or down, the available options is an orgasmic, ear-piercing ding straight out of hell that you will want to crank up your 5.1 surround sound for. If you select the wrong answer 4 times, you are kicked back to Bowser's Museum, where you will get to use the timulator again. Then Cowabunga Dude on the surfboard again, then try the stage again. This gameplay loop is stupid. But that's not all. In a lot of the stages, there will be fetch quests in order to get some information you need, and who doesn't love fetch quests? For example, one guy on one of the later stages has more information for you, but he's dying for some tea. So you gotta talk to a bunch of random assholes until one person will just give you some tea after you've asked him a bunch of questions. Bring that tea back and you'll hopefully get a little nugget of information in order to fill out your homework to completion, and then most likely bring yourself to completion because this is riveting stuff here. Not only is learning fun, but it's hot. Once you finally have both pages of homework filled in, you can speak to the main historical figure to return their missing goods. For example, for the apple, which was the first artifact that we picked up, we're looking for Isaac Newton so we can give him back his golden delicious, as if he would realize if we just gave him a different apple, or even better, if he could just be bothered to get off his fat ass, he could have just went and got another apple. They're all over trees, all over the place, and he's being a spoiled little bitch, insisting that he has to have that specific apple. And also, are we just to believe that because Mario traveled through time to return the apple to him, that history has somehow not changed at all after a giant lizard took his apple in the first place, and some plumber dressed in overalls brought it back to him through time and had a conversation with him about it? Just because he got his apple back, how does that series of events not alter history at all? And we do this 15 times in this game. This is pure mindless negligence on Mario's part, and I demand realism from my time travel stories, and you won't find it here. This is probably just my own nitpick though, and something I need to deal with internally. You may feel differently about how all of this should play out, but moving on. After the level is completed, the game doesn't tell you this, but you hit the L button whenever you're ready to exit the stage, and Mickey Mouse reaches his arm out from the side and clicks a stopwatch. Then you get a negligible score that, like the ability to jump, serves absolutely no purpose in this game other than to exist. There's no perceivable factors that go into score, you just get one. You and the game both forget all about it, you get a password for when you feel like returning to this game later on in life, and then you move on and do it all again. What I just described is the entire gameplay loop until the game ends. There is not a single deviation from this formula, not even for the end game. For the notoriety, I played through the entire game start to finish so that I could capture the footage needed for this review, but I also wanted to see how the game would pull off an ending. Before I get to the ending, though, let's talk about some other features of the game. We've already touched on the gameplay loop, and we've talked about the story that's barely there. So now let's discuss the graphics, music, and sound. The graphics are the best part of Mario's Time Machine, hands down. They could actually be considered good depending on your angle. Mario looks and pointlessly jumps like Mario and generally passes the piss test on this one. Although to counter that, I'll say Bowser looks funky as hell, but that's not exactly crazy in the 90s. He isn't drawn horribly, Bowser as a character just looks stupid. And that was kinda a recurring theme with the Mario lore back in the day, before Bowser received his ultra cool modern makeover. Here he just looks like a fat dork that needs to trim his eyebrows and needs to tone down his orange hue by a lot. Overall though, decent artwork on these characters, and they fit in with the Mario we know and love from the time period. Most of the artwork looks hand-drawn, and I'd say for a Super Nintendo game, they aren't bad at all. Most of the stages are somewhat open, unique scenes with a few indoor scenes sprinkled throughout, and each are original. They might not be huge, but from the looks of it, they are hand-drawn, original, and complete. There aren't many tiled patterns here, and not much is repeated. Each stage for each relic has its own unique theme and is hand-drawn around that theme, and has minor animations throughout, such as birds on a roof or flags flopping all over in the wind. The characters that populate these worlds can look a little odd at times, and they hardly move, but for the most part, it's pretty obvious that there was at least some effort in the art design here. According to the credits, there were a few art directors and 3 artists, and I think they deserve a lot of the credit for at least making this game functional and tolerable to look at. Here's some examples of the various stages you'll visit and some of the people you'll see. And as stupid as the surfing portion of the game is, that also looks decent and looks like it could fit into a proper Mario game from the era. They are pointless, but they look the part, and it's mode 7 straight up your asshole. None of the tunes in this game are bangers. Ooh, bangers? None of the tunes in this game are bangers, and they mostly... Oh god, my dogs. None of the tunes in this game are bangers. They are mostly just reworked Mario themes to fit into the time period you are currently visiting. It's not going to rock your socks off, and for the most part, it's passable and forgettable. Sometimes it sucks though when it feels like it. The sound effects range from okay to this game hates you. Some of the noises puked out of this shit gave me diarrhea. Just put on your headphones and crank it to 11 and check out some of this crap. How the hell did any of that pass quality control? Clearly, the art department were punching way above their weight when compared to those responsible for the sound design. I will quickly note that because this is an educational game and teaching is its intended function, the writing is fairly important. And despite how boring it is, it's not exactly terrible, it's just boring. And aside from the short, nonsensical intro story bits, the parts actually doing the teaching receives a passing grade from me. It could have been way worse, and probably should have been. So what happens when you complete Mario's Time Machine? Is there at least a satisfying ending? Well, kinda actually. What we get is a short cutscene of Bowser scurrying away from his throne like a pussy-ass bitch in fear of Mario, who enters the throne room with what I would consider a strong pimp hand. He sets the timulator to jizz, and then somehow sends only Bowser and not himself back to the Jurassic period, at which point Bowser is straight up mutilated to death by a giant dinosaur foot, a plesiosaur, I think. I don't know, I'm not an architect. Then the credits roll while you stare at the puddle of guts that used to be Bowser, and since this game is clearly canon in the Mario-verse, that means Bowser is dead forever and will never be in another Mario game again. Then the game starts over as if you would want to play it again. I don't know if the resolution was worth the few hours I put into the game, but it was kind of worth it for me to make this video and share it with the world. Overall, Mario's Time Machine won't win any awards for creativity, gameplay, sound design, music, overall fun, ingenuity, etc., but it might win an award for being terrible. It's not a good game, nor is it fun. It's got a few positive aspects to it, such as the graphics and the overall look of the game, but for the most part, this fails miserably at pretty much everything it attempts to do. It's difficult to understand how to even play, the controls are the opposite of what good is, and the sound design will probably rot your PP off. I can't really recommend this to anybody, and that's it. I've got nothing else to say besides that I just can't recommend it to anybody. Thanks for dropping by the Nasty Bees channel once again. If you enjoyed this, you know what I expect from you. Hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and enable all alerts. That's all I can ask, and I'll see you on the next one. I'll try to pick a game that isn't crap for the next round.